lovely people, my name's Nicole, and today I wanted to shine a spotlight on some of the diverse LGBTQIA+. I'm personally going to refer to just the general umbrella term queer in this video. I know that's not a term that everyone likes, but it's the term that I tend to use both because I'm a gender and queer studies major, and that's the term that's used like in academia, and also that's the term I identify with, so that's just the term I'm comfortable using. But in order to shine a light on some of my favorite queer books, I am going to share with you guys a queer book in every genre. And I will say, especially if you're not familiar with my channel, I primarily read and talk about YA, so a lot of these do fall under the YA umbrella, but since YA is like more of an age category than a genre, we're just kind of gonna ignore that. There are a few books that go outside the YA range. I didn't go younger than a middle grade just because I'm not super familiar at this time with the books for younger kids, and I don't want to recommend you guys something that I don't know enough about. Also, if I forget any genres or leave something out, please let me know in the comments. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts on this, but let's get started. The first genre I have is comedy, and for that I'm going to recommend How to Repair a Mechanical Heart by J.C. Lillis. This is about two boys, and they're both gay, but they're just friends. They're both fans of this one particular show. That's how they met, that's how they became friends, and they were going on a road trip to go to every single convention that the stars of the show are appearing at in order to prove that there is no homoerotic subtext between the two main characters. But along the way, the other fans that they're kind of fighting with about this start to shift from shipping the characters to shipping the two of them. And it's super cute and really funny. There are also a lot of kind of more emotional, intense moments, but overall it's just a great lighthearted read, and it's a lot of fun, especially if you are sort of a fan convention kind of person. The next genre I have is drama, and for that I'm going to recommend Jerkbait by Mia Seeger. This is an emotional, beautiful, heartbreaking, and at times kind of intense book about a boy whose twin brother, the star of their school's hockey team, he seems like kind of the golden boy at their school, tries to commit suicide and then later comes out as gay. And it's about their sibling relationship and his brother's coming out in high school while balancing that with his sort of stereotypical jock golden boy image. The next category I have is horror, and for that I'm going to recommend Carmilla by Sheridan Le Fanu. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. This is actually one of the first vampire novels, and it's about this sweet young girl who meets this vampire who is the sort of stereotypical dark, sexy, seductress kind of vampire, and they create this sort of weird romance type thing. If you're not a big fan of older novels but you want to experience the story, there's also a really good modern day web series adaptation by the same name. The next category I have is realistic fiction, and for that I have Queens of Geek by Jen Wilde. And this is told from the perspective of two friends who go to this sort of Comic-Con style convention with their third friend, and one of them is dealing with anxiety and mental health stuff while she enters a competition to meet her favorite author, while the other is there promoting her new movie and trying to deal with her annoying ex-boyfriend, while also falling for this YouTuber who she has a crush on, who is a girl. So one of the characters is really good representation for mental health and diverse body shapes. That character is fat, and the other character is really good representation for bisexuality and Asian characters. Next genre is romance, and for that I have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda. If you didn't think I would be recommending this sometime in this video, you clearly don't know me at all. I love this book. It's one of my all-time favorite books, and it is such a cute romance. It's about this teenage boy who is closeted in high school, and he starts up this anonymous email relationship with another gay boy in his class, and just as they're starting to fall for each other, he gets blackmailed by a classmate who is threatening to out him, and he starts to think that maybe it's time to make his online relationship IRL. The next genre I have is satire, and for that I have Beauty Queens by Libba Bray. This book is so funny. It's basically satire of Lord of the Flies. It's what if Lord of the Flies happened with an all-female cast, and that all-female cast was beauty queens on the way to a pageant. The cast of characters in this is hilarious and wonderful and so diverse. They talk a lot about race representations in beauty pageants. There are a number of girls of color who feel like they're specifically competing with each other to be the token person of color in the pageant. There's a really great trans character, there are bi characters and gay characters, and it's just so good and it's all so clever and funny. The next genre I have is tragedy, and for that I have More Happy Than Not by Adam Silvera, because honestly, what other author could be in this category? I have never gotten through an Adam Silvera book without crying. This book in particular packs a bit of a punch. It's about a teenage boy who is struggling with his father's suicide and being poor in the Bronx and coming to the realization that he's gay, and so he goes to this institute, the Lidio Institute, I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, where they can make you forget things. And it is absolutely beautiful and heartbreaking, and if you've never read an Adam Silvera book, I recommend all of them. I wanted to keep it to just one book per author in this video, but really all of his books are incredible and you should read them all. The next genre I have is fantasy, and for that I have Of Fire and Stars by Audrey Coulthurst. This is about a princess from a fantasy kingdom who's engaged to the crown prince of a neighboring kingdom as sort of a peace agreement type thing. But once she gets there, she starts falling for his sister. The next category is science fiction, and for this one, I will say I personally have not had the chance to read this book because it's not out yet. I unfortunately don't have an ARC, but I do have a lot of friends who have read this and absolutely love it, and that is 27 Hours by Tristina Wright. This book is about a cast of characters who live on this sort of moon planet. It's basically one of Earth's colonies, and one day on this planet is 27 hours. And this cast of characters, most if not all of whom are queer, have one day, 27 hours, to stop this war between the colonies and the sort of natives on this planet in order to save their home. The next genre I have is historical, and for that I have The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue by Mackenzie Lee. This is one of my favorite books that I've read this year, and it might be going into one of my favorite books of all time. It's about a boy in the 1800s who is about ready to take over his father's position as a nobleman, as a businessman, but first he has one summer to spend traveling around Europe with his best friend and his sister. But before he leaves, his father tells him that this summer he needs to be on his best behavior, and he is not allowed to flirt with or kiss any boys, he's not allowed to drink too much, he's not allowed to go too crazy, and in order to make sure he doesn't, his father will be sending a chaperone along with them. The main character is bisexual. The book also has a lot of really good discussions of disability and illness at the time, of race relations at the time, and of feminism at the time. The next genre I have is mystery, and for that I have Last Seen Leaving by Caleb Roig. And this is about a boy who is trying to get up the courage to come out to his girlfriend, but either just before he does or just after he does, I can't really remember either way. His girlfriend mysteriously disappears and the police are all of a sudden questioning him about what happened, and this is about his journey to figure out what happened to her. The next genre I have is sports, which is not a genre I read a lot, if ever. So luckily, the one book series that I have read and enjoyed from this genre happens to be super gay, and that is The Foxhill Court by Nora Sakavic. The series title is All for the Game. This is a complicated series. I have a full video review for it that I'll link in the doobly-doo. I actually have a full video review for a number of these books. I'll link all of them in the doobly-doo. And this is basically about this boy, Neil Jostin, who has been kind of on the run his entire life, but the one thing that sort of kept him rooted is his love for this sport called Eggsy, which is basically box lacrosse, and he gets recruited by this college team, which is kind of an underdog kind of team, and it's made up of people who need second chances. There are a number of gay characters in this series. There's a really great romance, and the main character isn't explicitly stated, but fans have speculated and the author has confirmed on social media that the main character is demisexual. I do want to give a little bit of an asterisk for this one. A lot of trigger warnings. This goes into some really dark stuff. It gets very graphic violently, and it also has a lot of discussion of drug abuse and depression and suicidal thoughts and sexual assault. So go into it knowing that and just sort of prepare yourself, because it does get very emotionally intense. The next genre I have is middle grade, and for that I am recommending George by Alex Gino. This is a wonderful book about a little girl who really wants to play Charlotte in her school's production of Charlotte's Web, but unfortunately she's not allowed to because her teacher and everyone else around her tells her that she's a boy. So it's this great story of this young trans girl. I do want to give an honorable mention to, if you want something that's more focused on sexuality, Star-Crossed by Barbara D is the story of a bisexual girl in, I think, middle school who is also dealing with a school play common theme for queer middle grade books, I guess, and falls for this beautiful new girl in her school. The next genre is comic books, and honestly, like, there are many full-length videos on just LGBT comic books, but today I want to recommend The Young Avengers, specifically the Children's Crusade arc. Also, the Kieran Gillen, Jamie McKelvey arc has a lot of really good queer representation. I wanted to recommend these ones in particular because there is a specific focus on Billy Kaplan and Teddy Altman in this one, and it has what I believe is, and I'm like 95% sure on this, if I'm wrong, I'm sorry, someone please correct me and let me know what the actual one is in the comments, but I believe it's the first on-screen gay kiss in Marvel Comics. And it's so good. It's this group of teenagers who are sort of mini Avengers, and this particular arc follows Wiccan, Billy Kaplan, in his journey to go rescue his mother, Scarlet Witch. The next genre I have is urban fantasy, and for that I have Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. This is part Harry Potter inspired, maybe kind of parody, maybe exploration of what could have been, and part spin-off of her other book, Fangirl. This is about a boy who goes to a magic school. He is the chosen one, and he falls for his vampire roommate. The roommate is gay, the main character is bisexual. The next genre I have is spy or heist novels. I kind of put those in the same category because there tends to be a lot of overlap, and for that I have Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo, and this one is kind of a high fantasy heist novel, but it features a cast of characters, all of whom are wonderful, and this is another one that has lots of different kinds of representation. There's really good representation of characters of color, there's really good disability representation, there's really good diverse body type representation, and then there's also really good gay representation. Two of the characters in this are gay, and a romance develops between the two of them. The next genre I have is erotica, so asterisk on this one, rated R, not for children, but that is The Boss by Abigail Barnett. She said in a blog post that this series originally started as her taking the idea of 50 Shades of Grey and being like, can I write that in a way that actually is like a healthy relationship and a good representation of BDSM culture? Yes. Yes, she can. So this is about Sophie Shea, who is an assistant in a fashion magazine, and the magazine gets bought by Neil Elwood, who is a sexy older billionaire who turns out she had a one-night stand with when she was like 19 and had lied about her age, and it was like the most amazing night of her life, and now they're being reunited and it's amazing. The main character explores her sexuality a little bit more in later books. She eventually comes to identify as bisexual, and the main love interest is bisexual, and then in later books they also begin to explore a little bit of polyamory. Another quick trigger warning for this series, not in the first book but in later books, there is some discussion of mental illness, alcoholism, suicidal thoughts, and sexual assault. The next genre I have is a retelling, and I don't know if that's technically its own genre. This could also function as like a classic mythology kind of genre, but for that I have Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. This is basically, like, the plot's pretty straightforward. It is a retelling of the Iliad, the story of Achilles, from Patroclus's perspective, and exploring the very popular theory, like, personally I subscribe to it, that Achilles and Patroclus were not just friends but lovers. The next genre I have is literary fiction, and that's another one I don't read a lot of. I'm not sure that this one technically fits in, but I think it's probably the most literary fiction-like book that I have on my shelves, and that is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alire Sains. This is kind of a classic in the YA queer books genre. It's about two boys who meet one summer and become best friends and eventually realize that they've fallen for each other. There's also good representation race-wise. Both of the boys are Hispanic, and it talks a lot about their families and their culture. The next genre is nonfiction, and for that I have The ABCs of LGBT by Ash Hardell. I think technically on the book it says Ashley Mardell. Since then the author has gotten married and changed their name around a bit for non-binary reasons, so now they're going by Ash Hardell. You can find them on YouTube, on Twitter, whatever. But this is pretty much what it sounds like. It goes through and explains an A to Z of LGBT terms, and it explains them, it talks about what they mean, what they're used for, the context, and has some really good anecdotes from people who identify with those specific terms. It covers a lot of topics and tries to be very careful about making sure that they have really good sources for all those topics. There's once or twice where they mention topics that they want to discuss but didn't have any sources for it, so they mention that those things exist, but they don't want to go too much into depth on those because they want to make sure that they have accurate sources and representation when they do talk about those. The next genre is poetry, and for that I have The Princess Saves Herself in this one by Amanda Lovelace. This is just generally a really good poetry book, and I highly recommend it. The author is super sweet, and the author is asexual. And then the final genre I have is biography or memoir or autobiography, whatever, and I thought about this one a lot and I wasn't quite sure what to put. I honestly don't read a lot of nonfiction or biography, but I know that there are a lot of really great books that fit into this genre. Tyler Oakley's Binge is great. I've heard that Connor Franta's books are great. I have both of them, but I haven't picked them up. Alison Bechdel's Fun Home is phenomenal. But today I want to talk about Honor Girl by Maggie Thrash. This is a graphic memoir about her going to camp and realizing that she was gay when she fell for one of the older female counselors. So those are all the books I have to recommend for you guys today. I covered as many genres as I can think of. If you guys have any genres that I didn't cover, let me know, or if you guys have alternative books for any of these genres to suggest them in the comments so we can all read them and get more recommendations for great LGBT books. These by no means are not a comprehensive recommendation list of books. In the LGBT category, for a lot of these genres, I had to choose between multiple really great options. I also want to give an honorable mention to a couple authors that give wonderful representations, but I just didn't really have a good place to fit them into this video, and that is David Levithan and Nina LaCour, both of whom write absolutely incredible LGBT realistic fiction. David Levithan in particular is kind of a pioneer of the LGBTQIA section, and he has written some absolutely incredible books. So again, let me know if you guys have any other recommendations in the comments. I love you guys, and I will see you later.